Rama Venugopalan. I'm a Bharatanatyam practitioner, teacher from Bangalore. And I also dabble with Rangoli, is my passion. And I also have had the opportunity to do my master's in temple architecture and Indian philosophy with respect to Indian classical dance. And Anubhaya, the connection is really coming together of all these allied arts that is such an intrinsic part of our Bharatiya Kala Sampradaya. At the outset, I'd like to welcome one and all of you. My very special gratitude to Tanisha ji for having invited us to this very prestigious conference. My respects to all the August scholars here and to all the people who presented the paper. I come really from a perspective of how the Indian arts has permeated into the performance space. As a practitioner of dance, as a deep believer in the philosophical aspect of dance, and having practiced and taught this for almost 40 years of my life, this Anubhaya is really a coming together and a sharing of how I have personally perceived how all these arts come together. What we see in abstract or in very grand physical formats in temples, the same concept kind of permeates in a visual aesthetic appeal in our Indian classical dance. So I believe the connection is to bring together these aspects, and I hope you will all enjoy this presentation. It is just a very simple sharing. I know we have wonderful scholars here, so if there are any mistakes, kindly forgive me. But this is really a personal sharing, a personal journey for me. And let's dive right into Anubhaya, the connection. Art, architecture, music and dance is nothing but the sacred geometry. The mathematics in place, but when we are looking at it from a drishya or something that we are visually able to understand, what comes across really is how the simple aspects of the abstract concepts of structure, of mathematics, of linearity are so embodied in our temple architecture. For instance, at this particular imagery, you will see how the pillars of this particular kshetram are aligned serially, and it kind of gives you a pathway or a journey where you can walk right into the final light that permeates at the other end. Performance arts is also like that. When we begin, we start with a very linear approach, learning the basics of our footwork, learning how we move the hands, and learning how we use our facial gestures. And over a period of time, we bring and synchronize all these to the concepts such as mathematics, which is also very common in architecture itself, where we use basic mathematical structures and mathematical concepts in our dance too. These become the foundational structures for all the art forms, and it is also, in a way, a beadwork design using these basic structures. And it is this design of a simple triangle, square and circle, the sacred shapes that permeates across all our art and architecture, that I have used in our opening piece, which is a Mallari. A Mallari is basically an invocation to the guardian deities who exist in the temple. So usually during very important and auspicious days, the deities are taken all over the temple presence, and at each direction they are stopped and they are given an offering. So the Mallari concept of Rangoli, which I practice, you will see in the right side in my Rangoli usage, you have a kind of a representation that you will actually find on the panel here in the Bharata. And that cross-section is represented using the square in the Rangoli, using the embellishments, using the floral concept, and of course having the center circle which kind of combines the basic geometry of the squares, the circles, the triangles, bringing together a very symmetrical view. And it's the same thing that I have incorporated in the choreography that you will find when we present our first composition. Next. You can read that, yeah. So these are the same representations that you will see if you observe. I have played in the rangoli with the triangles. I have played with the squares. Yes. The triangle, the circle, the semicircle, the square ends, and the circular format. These will appear in each of these golden images, and I hope you will be able to see how all these patterns, the simple concept, these very simple geometrical shapes, are also the actual narrative of all of the temple architecture. You have the circles, the concentric circles, the squares, and the semicircles with embellishments. And then some pillars and some structures have a lot of simple curves and simple lines that have brought about in this particular kolam, or rangoli or alpana. And then of course, it's a culmination of the sacred triangle, the circle, and of course the lotus that is representative of the beauty and the aesthetic appeal of our classical art forms and of the classical art and architecture. So with this, you will see the first concept, the Malari, where you will see us bringing the square, the circle, and the triangle in this particular composition. The sacred geometry. classical art forms, this classical art of our Bharatiya Sampradaya is anything but simple. It is complex, it has intricate layers, it has embellishments, and it has beauty. It has science and it has structure, and it requires a sadhana that spans several years and several decades and several lifetimes. So one of the most important aspects of our temple architecture that brings together this entire layered approach is also something that we see in our performance arts. For example, this is actually one of the panels that you will find in the Hoysala architecture from the state that I come from. And this is one of the most beautiful, intricate panels that you will see. I mean, one can perhaps stare at it forever because it's absolutely intricate and it is so beautifully embellished. And there is a certain symmetrical wheel of design. Nothing in that panel is out of place. Everything is thought, everything is structured, everything is designed, and everything is executed with that symmetry and with that intricacy. And that is what is very often and most importantly used in our classical dance form too, especially in Bharatanatyam, the form that we practice. Because when we learn, when we practice, and when we kind of internalize our kala, it's really about bringing together the structure, the symmetry, and the nuances, all in the play to give the audience and the practitioner a very aesthetic experience. And it is also these concepts that you will find in certain splurts across so many of our pillar structures, or in the roofs of the temples that we will find across our Bharata. And it is that embellishment, the intricacy, and the precision that I have tried to represent in the three golden panels that you will see. Again, I draw a lot about the pillars because our Shastriya Sampradaya, our Kala Sampradaya is the pillar of this particular dharma, is the pillar of Indian art and Indian knowledge systems. So these embellishments stand as an important aspect for us to reiterate and understand why the structure, why the precision, why the clarity is absolutely important. So when you look at the columns that I have drawn, you will see the first one, which again has an interplay of the square and the triangles, and it's like a cross-section of the pillar. And then on the left, you can see that the triangles are kindly congruent and they have those embellishments. And on the right, it is nothing but a repeated structure of a very simple geometrical shape of a square. Now, repetition is extremely important in our classical performing arts. What we learn when we are 4 years old, we repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and through the process of repetition is how we get the clarity and the wisdom to understand the versatility of the classical performance arts. Next presentation. Again, I have tried to kind of play with these concepts. You will see how these shapes are interplayed in each of these rangolis. And if we just kind of extrapolate that, we will see that these small embellishments are also a part of so many of our small frills that we find across the Indian temple architecture. So I will just leave you to just look at this. And each of these concepts is what we have integrated in the next composition, which is called as the Jatiswaram. It's an entire movement piece. So you will see us using the space in the form of a square, in the form of a rectangle. You will see us come together, you will see us move out, you will see us using all the concept of the stage, the linearity, the coming together, and you will also see that there is a certain structure and precision to the way we delineate this. So Jatiswaram is actually a movement piece. in the Bharatanatyam repertoire. So you will hear a continuous strain of music, and you will see that we have woven together the vocabulary of Bharatanatyam, and we bring it together in a cohesive approach, and such that the beauty of the composition, the beauty of the musicality, and the beauty of the dance comes through, and I hope you will enjoy this. This is in Ragam Keeravani. Again, music is very much interlaid in dance, as you all know, and this particular rag is called as Keeravani, so we present the Jatiswaram to you. Khajuraho temple complex. So there was this person from PDS and he said, "Madam, go up there, वो चार शिखर जो है, it represents Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha." And our Indian classical art forms are one of the most profound ways for us to be able to imbibe the concept of this Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Dharma is to be able to hold on to the values of what our Guru Parampara has bestowed in us. The Artha is about, of course, the economics and what we get out of it, which is sometimes beyond the realms of what we today simply call it as money. And Kama, the desire, is nothing but the desire to dwell deeper and deeper and be able to understand such that we reach moksha, or to be able to go beyond just the structure and what the philosophical aspects of our classical art forms teaches us. So on that note, our Bharatiya Kala Sampradaya, our Indian philosophical systems, has had such great seers who have propounded so many philosophies. One of the most important and one of the primordial seers has been Bhagavad Sri Adi Shankaracharya, and his magnum and profound shloka of the Shiva Panchakshara is one of the most deeply, of course, danced and understood and an everlasting, timeless composition. So yesterday while we were coming here, we also stopped by in Jabalpur at the Chowsat Yogini temple, and we were able to see the absolutely magnificent vigraham of Sri Gauri Shankar. So you see Shiva and Parvati sitting on Nandi, and it is that concept of Shiva and Shakti I have tried to bring together in the kolam. Now, one of the things that is very starking in our classical art forms is the concept of imagery. Through the hastas and gestures, all we are trying to do is to kind of recreate the imagery that is, of course, there in all the temples and in all the sacred spaces. So keeping that in mind, you will see the confluence of Shiva and Shakti in that particular kolam. Of course, the center is the bindu of the cosmos, the bindu of ourselves that is deeply connected. And then Shiva and Shakti are the universal force. They kind of seamlessly begin and end, and they are the final circle for anybody's life. So therefore the kolam is represented in the form of the circle, and Shiva holds the Chandra, and you will see the crescent moon in each of the central circle. And Shiva's, of course, he is the primordial epitome of Nada, and he holds the Damaru from where the cosmic sound emanates. And you will see the Damaru on the edge of the circles, and of course you will see the Trishula if you observe. And then of course Shakti, she's the one who engulfs, and she's the Purnatva, or she's the one who completes Shiva. And that is what is represented in the form of the outer circle with those dimensions. This is actually a very beautiful sculpture that is there in the down south, and this is of course Nandi. He is the eternal devoted servant, or the devoted bhakta of Shiva. And every Shiva temple has Nandi at the entrance, and Nandi's focus is nowhere else but on Shiva, teaching us that we need to be focused on that Paratattva. And if you observe the concept of Nandi, of course he is the Vahana, and he takes Shiva in all directions, and that is what I have tried to imbibe in that particular kolam. If you, let me just try to point it out, see the horn represented there on each of the kolams. And of course, Shiva has a Damaru, so you have the Damaru, and the Trishula on the fourth side represents the form that he is the one who is headed in all directions. The next slide, please. And these are just the different representations of Shiva in each of these columns, you will find the repeated concept of the 4 directions, that you will find the Trishula and the Damaru, and then you find the 3-petaled Bilva, which is very dear to Shiva. Again, this is the representation of the kolam that I just spoke about. You see the horns, you see the Trishula, and you see how Nandi is engraved in that particular kolam. So, Adi Shankaracharya has brought together all these imageries in his Shiva Panchakshara Stotra, and each of the lines are representative of Nama Shivaya, the Nakara, the Makara, the Shikara, the Vakara, and the Rakara. So, keeping these imageries in mind, we present to you the Shiva Panchakshara Stotram, and you will see how we have tried to bring in all these imageries in the choreography.
Não,
the Divine Mother, the Shakti, that divine feminine that is represented by the cosmos, that holds the cosmos in its kripa and compassion, and that runs the very heartbeat of living beings, known and unknown. So our two concluding pieces is both on the divine feminine, one in the form of a Pindana, that is in praise of Rajarajeshwari. She is the one who is the cosmic mother. She is the one who is the cosmic authority on all the Vidyas. She is also the one who is represented in the form of yantras. And she is that supreme auspiciousness. So, the Devi columns in general, represent auspiciousness. So what this entire cosmos, the philosophy, the temple architecture and the deities are there. The columns are nothing but a very simple representation for us to connect to that cosmos every morning when we wipe away the dirt and the reminiscence of the previous day, and we make the beginning of the house an auspicious one. And because she is the mother, she is always represented in the form of circles with embedded triangles. And because she is that divine auspicious mother, and she's also beautiful and graceful, she's always Varahi is the guardian deity, and it's a mention that we have in our composition. And that is the yantra, and you will see both these rangolis that are kind of bringing that essence of the Manavi embellishments, the lotus, and how the yantra is captured in the curved and in the semicircle aspect in that particular column. And the concluding piece again is submission to Bhavani through again Adi Shankaracharya's very immortal composition, where finally the seeker says, whatever knowledge that we have acquired, O Bhavani, I don't think I can recognize that knowledge anymore. Because the more and more I understand, the more and more I realize that I know very little. So through composition, Adi Shankara says, Gatiswam Tvameka Bhavani, you are my ultimate refuge. I don't know any of these knowledge, but I only know that you are my sole refuge. So that is actually one of a very powerful representation of what Bhavani, the Shakti, that eternal refuge represents. And she is that Paratattva, she is the one who holds the sacredness of the entire cosmos, and it is that aspect that I have tried to represent in each of these columns. The next one please, the final slide. Again, you will see the various representations of the Divine Mother. You will see lotuses represented everywhere because she is that auspicious, beautiful Divine Mother. And through these different rangolis, through the immortal temples and temple architectures that are there in the length and breadth of our Bharata, and through the immortal compositions of the seers and artists of this beautiful country that we live in, I surrender and find the connection to that cosmic mother. Once again, I want to thank Talisha ji for giving us this wonderful opportunity. Before I conclude, may I please introduce my disciples. My senior most disciple, Aruna Bhargavi. She's been with me since the age of 6, and this journey is as much as all my students as it's mine. And Kirtana Prakash. She's also a research scientist at IISc. Aruna is a yoga teacher and a yoga practitioner. And Jagadishwar Sukumar. He's a science teacher, he teaches high graders, he's a composer, and he composes music and poetry to many dance productions. Why I say this is that whatever cultural arts and whatever sampradaya bestows on us is something that we all need to revere and we need to hold very close. And I think conferences like this is a reminder and a reiteration to each one of us to see what we have been bestowed with and to hold it very close to our heart and to share with all your rasikas. And with that, yes, and I would also like to thank my disciple Ray who helped us. He's our technical manager. Thank you so much, Ray. And to the team, Mohan Dhanewad. and the finals like these. This is one of the pictures that I just found on the internet, but I think it is so appropriate to what our temple says, what just the bhakti that throbs in every Bharatiya represents. So our Kala Sampradaya, our internal systems, is so worthy of reverence, and it is our responsibility to uphold that reverence as much as we can, and finally to bring out that piety and devotion, because this is a cosmic blessing. On that note, my dear Rasikas, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure for us to present Advaita Connection here. We conclude with the final two short pieces, a Tilana which celebrates the Cosmic Mother, and Refuge to Bhavani.
यो भद्रा न जायान विद्या न कृतेर्ममैव न जायान विद्या न कृतेर्ममैव गतित्वं त्वमेका
Wonderful show. Wonderful.
God, I have no words. I think I speak for everyone that you left us all stunned and mesmerized. You were the perfect finale to this conference. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being here. Thank you so much. You made my day.
Thank you.
K. Kumar. I request Divya to present the vote.
Dear guests, delegates, speakers and participants, it is my honor to express our heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for making this conference a grand success. I would first like to thank our Chief Patron, Mrs. Neemala Datta, for her constant guidance and support. I would also want to thank the experts who agreed to join us and share their insights. Thank you, Dr. Nandini Bhattacharya, Shanu, Mr. Nilesh Neelkanth, Dr. Pankaj Saxena. It is the sheer grit and determination of Dr. Tanisha Datta, the culmination of which you saw on full display over the last couple of days. We wish her many more successful conferences. I would want to thank Dr. Sarika and Dr. I profusely thank the management and staff of Hotel Chandela who have tirelessly extended their service. I thank the newspaper group, the Hidwar Nagpur, for giving extensive coverage of this conference. I thank Ramaji and her team for the fantastic performance. Last but not the least, I would like to thank the entire support system, Advocate Gautam Datta, Ishita Dev, Mugdha Shirokar, Mr. Gulshan Algomba, Mrs. Vishnu Prabha Gomba, Dr. Ashok Nandi, Mrs.